Hello, everyone. We're back for another episode of Learnings, Realizations, Corrected Notions, and everything that comes in between. For today's lecture, we're going to have communication in multicultural settings and language. And there are two subtopics under this, and these are local and global communication in multicultural settings and varieties and registers of spoken and written language. At the end of this discussion, you should all be able to first determine culturally appropriate terms, expressions, and images such as sensitivity to gender, race, class, etc. And of course, adapt cultural and intercultural awareness and sensitivity in communication of ideas. Okay, so let's first have local and global communication in multicultural settings. Just as we thought that we were already done discussing things related to culture, then we are wrong because we're actually just starting. In fact, for today's lecture, we're going to encounter a lot of concepts that are related to the subject culture. Okay, once again, let's define culture. Culture is the learned, shared symbols, language, values, and norms that distinguish one group of people from another. From this definition, we can infer that culture is not a property of a country or an ethnicity or economic class. Rather, it is a property of people. And it is because a nation's culture resides not in the place or not in the country, but in the hearts and in the soul of its people. It's the people who are practicing or up or living by the beliefs, by the preferences, by the taste, by the language, speaking the language. Is the people and not really the country. Okay, another word that we have here, societies. These are groups of people who share a common culture. Alright. Another definition of culture is that it is a learned system of meanings that fosters a particular sense of shared identityhood and communityhood among its group members. And speaking of group, we have here two types, the in-groups and out-groups. Okay, we can use the term in-groups to refer to groups that we identify with, and out-groups is just the opposite of in-group. Out-groups describe groups we see as different from ourselves. For example, if you grew up in the Ilocos region in the Philippines, you would probably see other Ilocanos as part of your in-group, whereas someone from the Visayas Island would not. Similarly, when you're traveling in foreign countries, the locals there may perceive you as an out-group member if you look or sound different from them, or if you behave differently. For example, you're a Pangasinense and you're working in La Union, the people there may be considered as your out group, and the ones who are also Pangasinense like you will be your in group. Right? Okay, and here are components of culture. We have symbols, language, values, and norms. Let's discuss the first one, symbols. A symbol is something that represents an idea. Just as words are symbols, every culture has its own symbols that represent ideas vital to that culture. For instance, the Philippine national anthem, yung Lupang Hinirang, it serves as a symbol of Philippine culture, or it serves as a symbol of patriotism. Okay, what else? What other example can we provide for the first component of culture? Okay, symbol, aside from Lupang Hinirang as a symbol of patriotism, we can also have family members still living with their parents even at an old age or even beyond 18, maybe a symbol of Filipinos being family oriented. Okay, for the second one, we have language. This ensures that cultures and cultural ideas are passed from one generation to the next. Today, Chinese, English, and Spanish in that order are the three most commonly spoken languages in the world. I repeat, Chinese, English, and Spanish are the three most commonly spoken languages in the world. But let's focus on the first idea about language. It ensures that cultures and cultural ideas are passed from one generation to the next, because language is a tool that people use in order to communicate the values, the beliefs, the principles, the practices, or everything that is embedded up in one's culture. Okay, it is the language that we use in passing them down to the next generation. Okay. So without language or without communication, then we may not be able to share practices or share our culture to the generation next after us. Okay, so for the third one, values. A culture's values are the standards it uses to judge how good, desirable, or beautiful something is. In short, they are our ideas about what ought to be. For instance, Philippine culture values things such as respect, helping others, debt of gratitude, prioritizing family, empathy, saving face, faith, and religiosity and hospitality. Okay, we use values in evaluating an act, whether it's good or bad, or but sometimes it is sometimes a matter of taste or preference, or how you were raised inside your family circle. Okay, so values depends on how you were raised by your parents, for example. Okay, but some of the known or common values to all Filipinos are the things that I have mentioned. First, respect, helping others, debt of gratitude. I think that's the first one. That's number one. Debt of gratitude means utang na loob, and it's very evident among Filipino people, especially those who are not financially stable and they seek the help of their relatives who are well off for them to finish their studies, for example. And them finishing their study or graduating from college is such a debt of gratitude to the person who helped them. For example, an aunt or a rich uncle, a rich aunt, ganyan. So, utang na loob. And it's something that is not payable. Alam natin yan ng mga Pilipino. Okay, and lastly, we have here norms. Norms are rules or expectations that guide people's behavior in a culture. For example, there are different norms for greeting people. In the Philippines, people shake hands and say nice to meet you whenever they meet someone new. In other cultures, it's normal to bow, hug, kiss on both cheeks, or even kiss on the lips. Yeah, so norm from the word normal is actually from the word norm or norms, right? Norms is a norm is something that is done by the common people or by the majority, kasi yun nga yung normal. It is the norm. It is something that is followed by the majority or by the general. Okay. Example here in the Philippines, normal para sa isang Pilipino, para sa isang tao dito sa Pilipinas, na kapag may bagong nakikilala ay makikipag-shake hands at sasabihin na nice to meet you. Okay, what is not normal here in the Philippines is to kiss a person he barely knows on the lips, diba? Kakakilala mo lang tapos halikan mo agad sa lips or even sa cheeks. We don't do that, right? It's a little awkward, and yeah, we just don't do it. What we normally do, what is norm to us Filipinos, is we just greet him, shake hands, and then say nice remarks such as nice to meet you, or see you again next time, or I enjoyed our conversation. Okay, things like that. Okay, what is normal in other country naman ay the things that I've mentioned, like bowing, hugging, kissing on both cheeks, and even kissing on the lips. Okay, after these four components of culture, we actually have a concept we call co-culture. Ano kaya itong co-cultures? Groups of people who share values, customs, and norms related to mutual interests, or characteristics besides their national citizenship. Okay, so we have our norm, or we have our general culture as Filipinos. But here in culture, ito yung mga pinapaniwalaan ng isang group ng mga tao in a particular group. For example, these co-cultures could be based on shared activities such as group of surfers, group of riders, group of athletes, group of painters or bakers, guitarists, etc. Pwede rin na hindi activities pero shared beliefs such as yung Christian faith and born again Christians, Baptists, Muslims, Buddhists, etc. So yun yung tinatawag natin na co-culture. So here in the Philippines, majority sa atin ay mga Pilipino at may mga general norm or culture tayo such as pagmamano. Lahat yan ay applicable sa lahat ng mga Pilipino. Dito sa co-culture, distinct ito or unique ito sa groups of people such as the ones that I have mentioned. So group of surfers, for example, co-culture mo yung katulad mo na surfer. Okay? Co-culture mo yung katulad mo na baker or painter or athlete or guitarist. Co-culture mo yung karelihiyon mo. So, born again Christians or Baptists or Muslims or Buddhists. Right? Moreover, others could be based on differences in mental and physical abilities. For instance, many blind populations have certain values and customs that differ from those of seeing populations. Okay, blind individuals often express a strong preference for interacting with other blind individuals. Alright. Okay, cultural communication codes. We have idioms, jargon, and gestures. Once again, here are our cultural communication codes starting from idioms. What are idioms? These are phrases whose meaning is purely figurative. That is, you can understand the meaning by interpreting the words literally. For example, most US American adults know the phrase kicking the bucket has nothing to do with kicking a bucket. In US American culture, this is an idiom that means to die. So what you have to remember here in this first communication code is that you don't have to take the phrase literally because you're going to get the wrong essence of the phrase. In contrast, you have to know the context, or you have to know how unique or how it is related to the group of people speaking it, because some idioms are actually unique to one country or one culture. For example, most US American adults know the phrase kicking the bucket has nothing to do with kicking a bucket. In US American culture, this is an idiom that means to die. So when you hear an American, for example, you visited their place, you traveled there, and you hear an American say kick the bucket, he's not telling you to literally kick a bucket or sumipa ng kung ano dyan, diba? Or what he's telling you is that you might have done something that annoyed him or that hurt him and he wants you to die, so kick the bucket, okay? Because it means to die, okay? So just be careful in trying to communicate with people of interculture because it might cause misunderstanding and may rise the tension of two different people, okay, of different culture. Okay, so every society has its own idioms whose meanings are not necessarily obvious to people from other cultures. Okay, again, that's what I am emphasizing. An idiom may be unique to one culture, it may not be understood by another culture, so it's important to know its context. Okay, for instance, in Portugal, a person who doesn't give one for the backs, so the idiom here is doesn't give one for the backs, is someone who can't say or do anything right. So yung mga taong walang masabi o magawang tama sa Portugal, tinatawag silang doesn't give one for the backs. Okay, in Finland naman, if something becomes gingerbread, that means it goes completely wrong. Okay, if someone in Brazil says fish don't pull wagons, he's encouraging you to eat red meat. Likewise, if an Australian is as flush as a rat with a gold tooth, she's very pleased with herself. Okay, so when you hear an Australian say that you're as flush as a rat with a gold tooth, she or he is telling you that you act like you are very pleased with yourself. I don't know if it's positive or negative. Okay, when you interact with people from other cultures, it's helpful to be aware that they may use phrases you are unfamiliar with. Once again, let me emphasize that when you're traveling to other countries or other places, take note that when you interact with people from other cultures, it's helpful to be aware that they may use phrases you are unfamiliar with. So, wag kang sagot lang ng sagot. Kailangan iniintindi mo rin kasi hindi mo alam na yung sinasabi pala ay idioms and have meanings that are unique to their culture and that you are not aware of because you're not a member of that group or of that culture. Right? Next, we move on to jargon. It is a specific form of idiomatic communication that often separates co-cultures. Okay, so if you will try to recall our definition of co-culture a while back and the examples that I have provided, jargon is very much related to that, to co-culture, because, for example, you are a guitarist. Okay, there are words that you utter that are understood by your co-culture or by the people who also play guitar, and these are not understood by the people who don't. Kasi nga hindi mo sila co-culture. So, ang jargon ay unique lang sa mga tao na inside that co-culture. Alright? So, ang mga provide ko kanina, like by activities, like if you're a biker, or if you belong to a group of biker, or bakers, or guitarists, or riders, tapos yung sa faith naman, kapag you belong to a Christian faith, such as born again Christian, or Roman Catholic, yung sa Muslims natin, etc. Here in jargon, it is also mostly used in professions. Okay, may mga jargons na ginagamit ang mga teachers na hindi maiintindihan ng ibang profession kasi hindi sila teachers. In the same manner, especially doctors, they have lots of terminologies that could not be understood by teachers or by accountants or by other professions, but it is only the people belonging to their co-culture or to their group that do understand. Okay, yun yung idea ng jargon natin, alright? It's also a language whose technical meaning is understood by people within that co-culture but not necessarily by those outside it. Take note of the word technical. Okay, the words are very technical and are only understood by the people belonging to the same co-culture or to the same group, such as in profession. Okay, so group of teachers, group of doctors, group of accountants, group of doctors, group of engineers. Ayan, may mga jargon silang ginagamit as a communication code that only them in their unique group could understand. Alright. Okay, so here is the danger of not understanding jargon. It can make you feel like an outsider. Of course, diba? In addition, you might get the impression that doctors and dentists, for example, talk this way just to reinforce their in-group status. I would have to disagree with it, although some people or some professionals do use jargon for the sake of this one, for the sake of insisting their in-group status or reinforcing their in-group status. Parang, even without the need to do it, they're doing it. Okay. Jargon can serve an important function. However, by allowing people who use it to communicate with one another in ways that are very specific, efficient, and accurate. Kasi it's very technical, so it has to be very specific, it has to be very efficient and accurate. Okay, lastly, we have here gestures. And these are movements usually of the hand or the arm. Okay, mga gestures natin sa kamay or sa buong arm natin. Okay, they express ideas. The same gesture can have different meanings from society to society. Alright, so I'll be showing a picture in the next slide. Okay, but let's complete the definition of gesture first. For instance, use American parents sometimes play the game I've got your nose with babies by putting a thumb between the index and middle finger. This gesture means good luck in Brazil, but it is an obscene gesture in Russia and Indonesia. Okay, the thing here in gesture is that a single gesture can mean a lot or can mean differently in another culture. Okay, let's take a look at this example. So, ito, in UK and in USA, this gesture by the hand means okay. In Japan, it means money. Also here in the Philippines, I think this means money, diba? In Russia, it means zero, and in Brazil, it means an insult. So when you go to Brazil and you make this gesture, then the people there might be offended and might be angry with you, diba? Kasi nga ginawa mo yan, insult ang ibig sabihin sa kanila yan. Akala mo, you are bringing your culture in that country because here in the Philippines, it means money or it means okay or it means alright. Tapos ginawa mo yan nung nasa Brazil ka, you will get misinterpreted or worse, people may be annoyed, may get hurt, and may do things that will hurt you din, diba? Okay. What else? Okay. So to inject fun, this gesture for me and for SS1B means a motivation to getting 3 as a grade para pumasa. Okay, diba? So same gestures can actually mean differently in many cultures. Okay, such as in the culture of UK and USA, this means okay. In the culture of Japan, this means money. Also in the Philippines, this means money or okay or alright. In Brazil, it's an insult. In Russia, it is zero. And in my class, in SS1B, this means a motivation to getting 3 instead of getting a failing grade. So, okay na yung 3 kasi sa failed grade. Ganon. Alright. Okay, here are other gestures or communication code that we need to know. Facial expressions. Well, facial expressions denoting happiness, sadness, anger, disgust, fear, and surprise are similar worldwide. The intensity of expression varies from culture to culture. Okay, what does it mean? Ang frowning naman as a facial expression would mean that the person is sad, and that is actually just the same to all the people. So whether you are an Australian or an American or a Filipino, a frowning face or a frowning facial expression means sadness or disappointment or exhaustion, ganyan, right? Okay, but the difference in culture is that what's this one? I'm recalling the term. The intensity, the intensity of expression varies from culture to culture. So, yung intensity ng pag-express mo. So, pare-pareho ng ibig sabihin ng frowning facial expression ay malungkot ang isang tao, disappointed, or pagod, pero yung intensity ng paggawa mo ng facial expression na yun ang magbibigay ng iba't ibang meaning sa iba't ibang kultura. Okay, example, in Asian cultures, facial expressions are suppressed because animated expressions are viewed as lacking in control, and too much smiling is seen as a sign of shallowness. Okay, Asian cultures and the Philippines is part of Asia, and I think this is true. Now, when we see a person who often smiles at the time even if wala namang dapat ngitian or tumatawa kahit hindi naman nakakatawa, we evaluate him or her as someone who is shallow or superficial or mababaw ang kaligayahan, ganun, mababaw na tao, ganun. Okay, while in contrast, in Latin and Arabic cultures, grief and sadness are exaggerated. Okay, sa Amerika naman, men hide their emotions. Okay, and I think it's true. And I noticed it among Americans. They hide their emotions. They're very good at controlling their emotions, at hiding their emotions, because emotions perhaps for them are a symbol of weakness, or it may serve as an avenue for people to attack you, or the bad people are gonna use that against you, kaya tinatago na lang nila yung kanilang emotion as a way to protect themselves. Okay, smiling. While most Westerners believe that the one surefire expression for winning hearts and wooing minds is a genuine smile, the act of smiling is culturally influenced and is not a simple indicator of goodwill. For example, in Latin and most Western cultures, smiling is expected behavior and a mark of appreciation, acceptance, and respect. However, in countries that are less emotionally expressive, such as Japan, China, Switzerland, and Russia, smiling is only shared among people who know each other. O, diba? Yung smiling should be taken as positive, right? Pero, sa ibang bansa, mag-smile ka lang sa mga taong kilalang-kilala mo na. Or sa mga tao na you treat as friends, as real friends, or as families, yung mga emotionally dependent na, sa mga taong you are emotionally dependent on, diba? So, sa kanila ka lang mag-i-smile. So, hindi pwede or awkward para sa mga tao in Japan, in China, in Switzerland, and Russia, smiling all the time. Kasi ginagawa lang ito sa mga tao na mahal na nila, or close na nila, or are friends and are very familiar with them na. Okay? In many Asian cultures, smiling for no specific reason is considered insincere and a sign of foolishness. Tama. Okay, the Koreans even have a saying, "He who smiles a lot is not a real man." Okay, Russians are perplexed with how Americans smile a lot, since they only smile to genuinely express a good mood or personal regard for an acquaintance. Russians believe that to smile or to laugh without reason is a sign of idiocy. Similarly, Germans also believe that Americans smile too much and save their own smiles for true happiness. America is not the only culture that values to smile as a means of conveying goodwill. People from Thailand consider the smile to be the most appropriate gesture a person can give, and are ranked the people who smile the most. So the people from Thailand are the ones who smile the most. Okay, well, this should be taken as positive. We really can't force it to other cultures or other country, kasi too much smiling means insincerity sa ibang mga tao. Personally, sa akin, I think I'm a jolly person and I do smile a lot, but I also recognize the fact that when I smile a lot or I laugh a lot, it means that I am not sincere. Ayun. Okay? Eye contact. We often hear it said that the eyes are the windows to the soul. Our eyes reveal our feelings, thoughts, and intentions. Because Asian cultures value humility and the suppression of emotions, they rely on the eyes for communicating messages rather than turning to the mouth. O, diba? It's through the eyes that we see the real intention of the person. Diba? Kung gusto mong makita ang totoong intention ng tao, look at him in the eye. Ganon. Okay, in the UK, USA, Australia, and Western Europe, eye contact is expected as a sign of interest and engagement. Okay, so sabi dito, in the United Kingdom, in America, in Australia, and other Western Europe, kapag nakipag-eye contact ka, it means that you are interested and you wanna engage. So, ibig sabihin, kapag nakikipag-usap ka sa isang tao at tinignan mo siya sa mata, it will signal your interest and your will to engage with the person, to interact with the person even more. Okay, a lack of eye contact is considered aloof, unresponsive, or apathetic. Okay, so the absence of eye contact means that you're not interested, diba? You're unresponsive or apathetic, walang pakialam. Okay, but beware of engaging with too much eye contact. When you're speaking, focus on the person's eyes no more than 65% of the time. So, hindi naman yung 100% of the time, hindi naman yung diretsyo nakikipagtitigan ka doon sa kausap mo. Iba na yun, diba? Okay, so when you're listening, you can look a little longer, not surpassing 85% of the time anymore, but any more than either of those can make you appear threatening, if not just a bit weird. Okay, I think it's true when a person stares at you for a very long time, or yung pagtingin niya nga sa'yo ng straight 10 seconds or 20 seconds, it's already very creepy na you are already cringing, diba? So, eye contact is good to signal sincerity, but it should be done for just 65% of the entire time that you are talking and not the entire 100%. Okay? So, physical contact naman, as a general rule, cultures with high emotional restraint concepts, including the English, the Germans, the Scandinavians, Chinese, and Japanese, refrain from physical contact in public. Oh, pero dito sa Pilipinas, diba, anywhere may naglalampungan. Ayan, people who encourage the expression of emotions, such as Latinos, Middle Easterners, and those of the Jewish faith, expect physical contact as part of normal conversation. So, the latter that I've mentioned, we have Jewish, Middle Easterners, Latinos, are opposites of English, German, Scandinavians, Chinese, and Japanese, who consider physical contact as something that should be restrained. Okay. Pero sa Latinos, Middle Easterners, and Jewish, they expect physical contact as part of normal conversation. So, normal lang na may physical contact kapag ikaw ay nakikinteract sa isang tao, nakikicommunicate, or nakikiconverse. Okay, so you see the point here, class, as I am going on with my discussion, is that these communication codes or gestures could be the same, but are different when it comes to varying cultures. Okay, when I say the same, there's no way to smile but to have your lip upward, diba? Yung lower lip magiging upward siya pag nakasmile ka, or the elevation of your cheeks. So that is what I meant. When you smile, you elevate your cheeks. But you smile, right? There's only one picture of smiling. So that is what I meant by the same. But this smile, the meaning of this smile differs from one culture to another. Okay, same with eye contact. There's only one way to have an eye contact with one person. It is through looking at him in the eye, diba? Looking at the person you're talking with in the eye. So that's how you do eye contact. Okay, so that is what I meant by saying that these are the same, the ways of doing these things are the same, but the interpretation or the meaning varies from one culture to another. Okay? Vocal patterns. Let's see. Ayan. Laughing, crying, yelling, and belching send different messages in different cultures. In the Far East, including Japan and South Korea, giggling indicates embarrassment. So when Japanese and Koreans giggle, it means that they are embarrassed. While in India, belching signals satisfaction. A loud voice in Arab cultures indicates strength, while a soft voice is a sign of weakness. So, yung mga Arabo pala, kapag malalakas ang boses nila, ibig sabihin mga malalakas sila, because when they speak in a very soft voice or in a very calm manner, it is a sign of weakness. So what do strong men do in Arab countries is that they speak very loud. Kasi kung they speak very soft, with soft voice, it means that they are weak. O, diba? Kala mo na kapag lakas ang boses, sinisigawan ka or nakakatakot. Pero in Arab culture pala, it means strength. Okay, Germans perceive a loud voice as a sign of confidence and authority, while the Thais consider it to be impolite, and the Japanese perceive it as a loss of control. I think it's Japanese and the Philippines share the same notion about yelling and about loud voice. Sabi dito, Japanese perceive it as a loss of control. Diba here in the Philippines, when you catch a person yelling or when you catch a person speaking loudly, it means that she lost control kasi nagalit siya, sumigaw siya, so nag-loosen up siya, nawalan siya ng control. She failed to hold back a little. Okay? And the last one here, space. Personal space is the distance you maintain between yourself and another person, and protocols vary widely across cultures. In the UK, USA, and most of Europe, people are most comfortable keeping 1 to 2 meters space between family and friends, and up to 3 meters between strangers and business associates. Throughout the Middle East, China, and Asia, people are comfortable getting up close and personal as they are used to having less personal space than Westerners. Space not really a problem here in the Philippines kasi nga lahat tayo everyday commuters, 'di ba? Wala namang space sa jeep, hindi possible ang 2 to 3 meters apart whether the person you are sitting next to is a friend, a family, a relative, or a stranger, 'di ba? Wala kang choice kung commuter ka here in the Philippines. Space doesn't really matter. Nagmatter lang ito nung COVID times, 'di ba? Sa jeep natin talagang may barriers. We maintained our physical distancing from one another in order for us to protect ourselves, not to contract the virus. Ayan. So doon lang ng time na yun nagmatter, pero applicable naman siya not only in the culture of the Philippines pero ng buong mundo. Pero here ang point dito sa space, as far as communication code is concerned or gesture is concerned, sa USA daw, UK at Europe, nagme-maintain sila ng 2 meters space between family and friends, tapos 3 meters naman kapag ka strangers and business associates. And this is not applicable in the Philippines kasi nga, sabi ko nga yung example ko kanina, every day we ride the bus or we ride the jeepney, and we don't have a choice but to sit next to whoever is riding the same jeep, diba? Whether he's your friend, he's your family, he's your relative, he's your workmate, or he's a total stranger, hindi applicable itong space, 'di ba? hindi applicable yung paglayo natin sa isang tao ng 2 to 3 meters apart kapag hindi natin sila kapamilya. Alright, so I think that ends here. The discussion ends here, and I hope you have learned a thing or two from this discussion. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.